Which universe is worse to be in? Hey, what's up you guys? Today I'm here to talk about two of my most favorite modern horror films, It Follows and the Smile franchise. And more specifically, compare the two villains of each film to see which antagonist is the superior monster. I will be referencing both the first and second Smile film. Keep in mind that these are my own opinions, and I'd love to hear your own as well. Stay tuned for the duration of the video because we're going to be basing this comparison based on 5 categories, starting with the first category. Just how much does each demon torment its victim before their demise? And how gruesome and traumatizing are the fates of those involved? Okay, first let's get into how each curse operates. So in the It Follows universe, the creature is passed along through sleeping with one of the victims already infected with the curse. Shortly after, if not immediately, the creature shifts course from following the previous victim to the person the curse has now passed on to. We see this happen when Hugh, whose real name is later revealed to be Jeff, passes on the curse to the protagonist Jay, a 19-year-old girl he's dating at the time,
and faked his name so he could pass on the curse.
Jay has sex with Hugh Jeffner in the car shortly before he kidnaps and restrains her in an abandoned building. He does this to prove to her that the curse is real by showing her the creature walking slowly toward her. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that this creature is occasionally naked. Anyways, Jeff/Hugh explains some pretty rudimentary rules of what he knows about it, and how it can take on the form of random people, sometimes mimicking the image of loved ones in order to get closer to its prey. The main goal is to keep being on the run, pass it on to someone else, and never let the creature catch you. He also explains that though the creature is slow, it isn't dumb, and any place with more than one exit should be avoided. In the Smile universe, the entity is passed on from the cursed person to a nearby witness by the infected person committing suicide in front of them while smiling. Seen here is our protagonist of the first film, Rose, a therapist whose very patient was the one who passed on the curse to her. The curse is now passed on to the witness, who begins seeing obscure hallucinations such as ashen figures in the dark or smiling figures in the distance. However, this disorientation increases as the Smile demon begins creating auditory hallucinations as well, mimicking a customer representative over the phone.
Are you alone in the house, ma'am?
Yes.
Are you sure?
What?
Are you sure you haven't let something inside, Rose? Look behind you.
No ma'am. No ma'am.
Screaming into Rose's ears, and also increasing the manipulation of her reality. For instance, the manipulation increases even more when the demon mimics her own therapist, and possibly possesses Rose to murder her own cat, and even creates some distortion between her own perception of time and space, having her believe she escaped the house at the end when it turns out that she was there the whole time. With It Follows, the kills are seen as quite brutal, from bones being snapped and inverted backwards to taking the form of your own mother and grinding the life out of you. We also see that although the ones who are cursed are the only ones to see the monster, Jay's friends are able to see her hair being pulled as Paul is hurled by an invisible force as well. And this solidifies her friends in believing in her that there's something actually after her that's supernatural. You have to consider the fact that you're either constantly running from the monster or thinking of people to sleep with in order to pass it on to. I'll touch on this more later in a different category, but to summarize, you have options, just not many. In Smile, quite literally, there is no escape. You are subjected to your own mind as the demon learns your trauma and uses it against you. There is absolutely nowhere to go. We see this in the first installment as Rose's mother is used in several forms the entity takes to make her recall the experience of taking care of and eventually walking in on her mother dead. Only you are subjected to the illusion of the curse and no one else. Not only is there no one to go to, but even your mind can be powered against you, as the creature pretends to be loved ones and also can mimic your perception of reality. We see the sequel in Smile 2 taking this disorientation to new levels with our protagonist Sky Riley, a music star on her journey to make a public comeback after recovering from a drug addiction and a fatal car accident she watched her partner die in. In the last 20 minutes of the film, she's manipulated to believe that she is receiving help from a former victim's family member to defeat the demon by stopping her heart for a few seconds. Before Sky is able to do so, the demon appears to show her that none of this is real, and she is instantly transported from the abandoned building where she planned on having her heart stopped to on stage, where she is performing her first concert after recovery. It's unclear as to how much of what the characters have been through in the movie is real and what was an illusion, but basically, Sky gets the curse, Sky starts going mad, Sky and a random man try to stop the monster reveals that
This isn't real, Sky.
and boom, she wakes up right at the concert, ready to die. So was that all a dream? Yeah, probably. Either way, it's completely disorienting to witness. And I believe that's the point. The entire span of illusions in the movie at one point disguised itself as one massive illusion, which can be a little confusing and does kind of sound like the trope of it was all a dream, but it does work for the sense that we see the experience of the smile demon through the person who's infected with the curse, so it makes sense that we would have this disorienting feeling. Some may argue that the man who helped her at the end was real at first when he introduced himself, but as the demon learned who he was, only then could it imitate his image when he tried to save her. This ties into the rule that the demon can only imitate loved ones, or people that the afflicted know. If it feels rushed, I will touch back on this later. We also do know that the demon posed as her best friend at one point to try to get closer to her and offer her a false sense of comfort. The demon was also able to physically cause her pain in these illusions, humiliate her publicly by manipulating the word display for her speech, and pretended to be her estranged friend just to get close to her. In terms of the demons and how they have contact, we do know and it follows that there is a physical force that can be used, and with the smile demon as well, the demon can touch the affected person or at least give them the illusion that they are being touched. While there is limited world building for both, the creature from It Follows is a bit more ambiguous. The rules for the entity are simple but not too specified. We know it can physically grab its victims with supernatural strength, but a consistent way it kills is not specified. At the end of the first scene, we cut to the victim dead on the beach, her leg torn all the way back. We do see Greg's death scene, but it's not specified if this is the approach that the entity prefers with killing, as we see several different ways that people can die. Whereas with Smile, the demon can manipulate its victim's perception of time, manifest as several figures at once, as we see in the sequel with the dancers, touch or make the victim feel violated, disguise itself as family or friends, hide in plain sight, immunize its victims' trauma against them, shapeshift into monstrous forms, and possess superhuman strength. I think I would much rather outrun the old lady. Point, Smile Demon. Just how possible is it to survive each monster, and which monster is an easier defeat? Both monsters seem to follow a chain of infected and rely on their victims to pass them along. It's worth noting that in Smile, the victims must die in order to transmit the curse to someone else, whereas in It Follows, the act of giving the curse is actually a method of survival. The more people you give it to, the more time you buy yourself. Also for context, Jeff is a high schooler who created a 21-year-old fake identity named Hugh in order to, I would assume, have better chances of passing on the curse to other adults. I had forgotten to mention that before, and he is a good example of this. We also know that either creature can't be killed by traditional methods. The It Follows entity survived bullets, possibly even in the ending as well, it's not known for sure. And for the Smile Demon, any assault it took was simply part of the main character's hallucination. While I admit the Smile Demon is a more cruel and cunning demon when it comes to the torture that one goes through, there's an easy way to avoid its fate, or rather straightforward, I should say. It's revealed in the film that the act of murdering someone in front of somebody else is the only way to break the chain. Rose and the handsome cop track down the line of victims through police reports of people dying that all matched the scene of her crime. They eventually tracked down the chain to the one survivor by the name of Robert Talley, a convicted murderer who witnessed a suicide and then murdered someone else. Becoming the key figure in the chain of suicides, he was the one man that broke the curse. So as long as you were to learn this secret early enough before the demon gained too much control over your mind, there is a clear-cut way to cheat this curse. There is a chance the demon would use the trauma of murdering someone to find you again, aka Rose finding Robert after he's already outlived the curse, but we see Rose talking to him without the demon attacking, so I'll just say that that's not a great chance, though it very well could have been a possibility for the entity to take advantage. The man was still able to escape the demon, at least for the time being. On the other hand, one of the things that haunts me the most in It Follows is the constant sense of dread. No matter how many people you pass it on to, the curse is always going to be working its way back to you. Solidifying your safety would not only mean manipulating another person into sex for it to transfer over, but instructing the person about the demon and its rules in a believable enough way. That whole kidnapping situation with Jay and Jeff before, had he not gone through such extreme circumstances, Jay may not have believed in the entity, thus being killed and having the creature return to Jeff.
If it kills her, it gets me. It goes straight down the line to whoever started it.
Even with covering your bases, you would have to be always monitoring the person you pass it on to,
which increases your chances of dying if the entity finds them while you're around. You will constantly be on the lookout for the rest of your life, always watching over your shoulder. I would rather just murder someone and get it over with. Point, It Follows. For those of you who don't know, the first form shown on screen that the It Follows monster takes is actually Jeff's mother. She is shown later on in the scene when the group finds out that Hugh is actually the high schooler Jeff. As the film continues, the demon strategically takes on the forms of ordinary people in order to get closer to Jay, eventually imitating the image of her friend and even her father in the final showdown. To others not affected by the curse, the being is invisible. It Follows takes the less is more approach. We don't know if the person walking behind us is on their way to work or if they're an otherworldly entity after us. Therefore, not much in terms of special effects are needed. The monster will look like everyday people because that's how it best finds you. Though I do appreciate the subtle choices, such as touches of makeup around the eyes. One actor I will highlight in particular is the late actor Mike Lanier, who portrayed the tall man approaching Jay's bedroom. Yes, he is actually that tall. Mike Lanier, who stood at 7 feet 7 inches, was actually one of half of the world's tallest twins, a title bestowed upon the brothers by the Guinness Book of World Records. He's probably responsible for one of the best scares of modern horror movie history.
Everything's okay.
In Smile, similar to It Follows, the entity takes on the form of loved ones or ordinary people, but it does reveal its true form in the movie toward the end. Marty Martulis plays Monstrosity, or the man in the monster suit, while Kevin Kelly played the mom-monster hybrid before the reveal in the first movie. The monster was created using a combination of practical effects, such as building a 9-foot-tall model, puppeteering its movements, animatronics, and matching movements with CGI to enhance its effect. The idea of a monster having a high degree of physical presence adds a lot more to the monster's character. You can even see in detail the other faces attached to the monster's outer layer of skin, theorizing that its victims become a part of it after their death. It may not contain the mystery of It Follows, which some audience members might find scarier. However, It Follows does pale in comparison to a monster that's fully fleshed out in form. Simplicity is not your strong suit this round, It Follows. Point, Smile Demon.
Rose, don't go anywhere! Hey, Rose, please.
We know the kind of movies we're dealing with. If we want to talk monsters, then we have to talk theme. This is why It Follows is not a metaphor for STDs. In an interview, director David Robert Mitchell stated, "I'm not personally that interested in where it comes from. To me, it's dream logic in the sense that they're in a nightmare. And when you're in a nightmare, there's no solving the nightmare, even if you try to solve it." Mitchell said that while Jay opens herself up to the dangers through sex,
The one way she can free herself from that danger, we're all here for a limited amount of time and we can't escape our mortality. But love and sex are two ways in which we can at least temporarily push death away.
it's important to understand how this subverts the sex equals death trope in horror. What may have started possibly with early slashers such as Halloween, as sex being a vulnerable act where the characters have their guard down near the killer, led to a pattern in horror involving teenagers, including sexually active women, being killed as an indirect punishment for their sexuality. This is heavily debated as a misogynistic trope since it is mostly geared toward women, and the final girl is a trope. The final girl is often described as being the virgin, a subdued girl, shy, perhaps bookish, and the antithesis of what the girl that would be killed would be like. And what It Follows is saying is that sex is an honest expression of life and or love, and a distraction from death, which will undoubtedly come. Death is not the punishment. Death will take you one way or the other. It Follows is a coming-of-age film. Each creative choice present shows the entire atmosphere of the movie as dreamlike. Characters make bizarre choices such as choosing to run in red heels during a chase scene, shooting bullets at a ghost.
Watch out, don't get too close! It's right there!
Just the entire pool scene at the end alone, like, why? Why would you think luring the ghost to the pool and electrifying it would work? This thing can take bullets. It all doesn't make sense, but it's like director Mitchell said, it's dream logic. There's no solving the nightmare when you're in it. Even the subtle playing with grass in the scene with Jeff's backyard is seemingly random but actually deliberate, almost showing an innocence in Jay that's fighting against accepting the situation. The movie deliberately lacks a sense of time to disorient you. We have styles from the 70s and 80s, vintage-like, props/set design, landlines, but then the compact mirror/mobile device shaped as a seashell, scenes transitioning from fall foliage to a hot summer day swimming by the lake, vintage cars, black and white movies. All of these time-confused aspects help the film create a disorienting setting. The long takes let you not only anticipate searching for the entity, but let you sit in the environment of a surreal world. The parents are only shown in the background or cut off in frame, meaning that they are not able to protect their children. This makes us see that the main characters are truly on their own. The shots are always very dimensional with active foregrounds and backgrounds, eerily reminiscent of early slasher films too, with some angles and choices. Occasionally the dialogue from one of the characters steals the camera's attention, but it's almost as if the scenery is the main character. The director of photography deserves massive props for both his eye for ambience and his use of symbolism, including the color red indicating danger and the monster's consistent white wardrobe, possibly indicating a blank void. The pool is another great example. Jay is transitioning into the adult she will become later on to fight for her life. In the beginning, the pool is a sanctuary, a symbol of her childhood, and later on the pool is destroyed, stating that Jay can no longer hold on to the past for security.
She is on her own.
Ultimately leading to the final showdown, which takes place in one large pool. The demon serves as an unavoidable fate of death that threatens every last bit of sanctuary she has. There is so much more symbolism to discuss, but I will hold off and possibly make another video if you guys want, just to dive in. I hope that in discussing these thematic differences, people will see that both Smile in It Follows, while similar, have absolute individual messages to say. It Follows is the burden of living life only to keep outrunning your eventual death. Smile is the burden of having experienced horror only to keep having to live with it.
You see her! You have to see her, please, Holly, no. Why is that all you care about, Mom?
In Smile, trauma is as inescapable as it is contagious. The filmmaking displays the chaotic mental disorientation the character feels through jarring camera angles such as motions that spin through the air into the shape of a literal smile. We see the protagonist slowly descend into madness, Rose's composure as a professional dwindling into chaos, and Sky Riley's character on the path of sobriety, only for the demon to expose her to the darkest shade of herself left undealt with. There's something else frightening about a person slowly losing themselves as well, other than the fact that a demon is behind it. The smile symbolizes itself as a mask people wear to conceal their pain on the inside, so when the demon chooses to smile, it's also a choice to throw that back in the victim's face, which works especially well in the second film with Sky Riley's character, which in my opinion is more fleshed out than Rose's. We start off with Sky at rock bottom, re-entering her music career after rehab and her partner's demise. Little does she know that rock bottom is still waiting for her. As we follow her in the beginning, we see just how isolated her life is. She's riding on the world giving her a second chance, so she is constantly under the public eye. Her mother runs her career, so naturally she has no real family to turn to, but an old friendship that we find out her drug addiction has already cost her. On top of that, in a flashback, Sky's boyfriend mocks her pain in the middle of a drug-fueled argument on the road, where right there you can see in her eyes it's the final straw. Then it's revealed that Sky is actually the one who killed her boyfriend in the heat of the moment. All of this, and the pressure to be a music icon, meant putting up an authentic facade, a marketable brand of bravery. Not a single heart-to-heart on talk shows without the promise of being better, not to herself, but to her fans.
Got thick skin, but I'm hollow, made up of broken parts.
You can see in small shades of her music there's a cry to actually be heard, but instead she must face the world. Not as someone flawless, but as someone whose true flaws will never be relevant to what her image needs to be. Strong and relentless, never failing her audience again, never breaking her smile. It's actually incredibly sad to watch when the demon poses as Riley's mother to degrade her before she finds out that it's actually the demon. Sky truly believed before that reveal that it was her own mother talking to her. Whether that's a testament to how her mother has truly failed her, or just how well the demon knows how to torture her, deep down, the demon had source material to take from. While the first movie explores that the demon chose Rose due to her suppressing massive guilt and PTSD over her childhood, what Sky is dodging is ultimately suicidal ideation, a sense of inferiority the demon reminds her of as she struggles to assert her own sense of self-worth. Sky was never in the driver's seat of her own life. I did enjoy the second installment more than the first. While neither films crossed the line of romanticizing mental illness, the second film, with its glitz and unapologetic pop sensibilities, offers a fair amount of levity to the situation, appropriately balanced with its serious themes. Modern horror feels very crowded these days. It seems like many movies are trying to attach metaphors to their monsters. Hell, this same subversive approach to the genre is decades old, but Smile does make it work. But while Smile gets the job done, It Follows had already paved the way, and this is why. Smile is the kind of horror that jolts you out of your seat. It Follows is the kind of horror that lingers. The deeper themes may not be as mainstream an approach as most horror fans want, but its thematic underpinning is so masterfully done. And the monsters from each film are only as good as the deeper exploration of human fears they're assigned to. Quick shout out to the soundtrack of both films, but particularly the score for It Follows by Disasterpiece, which adds a synthesized tonality to make the film feel ethereal, unsettling, and even nostalgic. Look at the amount of breath in these shots. The cinematography of every scene leaves the premise with so much room to thrive. The master shots and wide slow movements nourish the idea of there being something following you from any angle. So many choices commit to this atmosphere in the movie, and while I can't say that Smile doesn't have depth, because it certainly does, there's such a vast, meticulous approach to the film's dedicated execution of existentialism. It just makes it stand out as a cleverly crafted universe. Taking every single bit of these choices adds up to so much work put in. No offense to you, Smile, but the It Follows entity wins again.
Which villain is scarier? Well, it all comes down to the actual type of scares that each movie brings to the audience. So let's break it down into what type of scares each film masters. We have 3 categories: sudden, physical, and psychological.
Hey, did you guys know that all jump scares aren't bad? In fact, some of the best moments in horror are jump scares. It just needs to be effective. Smile and Smile 2 director Parker Finn once commented, "Some people will never love a jump scare, but I love a good jump scare." I wanted to infuse the film with jump scares that felt earned and were designed in a way that would keep an audience on their toes, sort of ramping up and changing how it's scaring you. Earned. Read it again, earned. A jump scare is effective if it's earned. 2 of the major factors in a good jump scare are the build-up and the blow-up. For building tension, many movies have long build-ups for the scare. Slow movement, the draining of sound, mostly to emphasize the loudness of the actual scare. This is all very predictable, and while the fake-out scare is the kind of scare that's considered cheap, such as the person behind the refrigerator door, having scares that come unprovoked, unforecasted, and unexpected are key to actually catching people off guard in a meaningful way. Secondly is the blow-up, the actual scare. You avoid all false jump scares, scares that have no threat and serve no purpose other than to get the audience, and you leave the tension for a reveal that amplifies the tension rather than a burnout. An underrated example of a modern jump scare done well that comes to mind is in the movie The Descent. The 2005 film follows a group of young women who lose themselves while exploring a cave. After discovering animal carcasses and increasingly running into suspicion that they aren't alone, they begin to panic when the way out is nowhere in sight. It's then after one character turns on the night vision for their camera, only to see this. The shot lingers for a second before the jump scare commences in the musical score. Whether or not you're a fan of jump scares, Smile executes them well, and it's in big part due to the writing. Not only is there effective build-up and blow-up, but it makes sense for the premise that jump scares are a part of the demon torturing its victim, which makes it feel less unnecessary and more part of the demon's style. What it lacks in jump scares, It Follows makes up for in long-lasting suspense. However, there is one moment I have to address, and you probably already know where I'm going with this. This scare right here is absolutely iconic. The idea of an evil being disguised as an incredibly tall man walking straight from the hall into your bedroom is just so incredibly absurd. Gore in cinema can often be used for shock value, but not always. It's more about how intentional the movie's relationship with gore, or a lack of gore, is. If what's being shown works, it can actually move your story forward in a tasteful way. The gore in It Follows is very minor except for that one jarring cut in the opening scene with the victim's body, and that stands out as the only grotesque imagery present in the whole film. Its use of blood later in the film is considered more of an artistic choice for cinematography, aka the pool scene. And for Smile, though its violence is intense, I'd argue against it being over the top. Take the inciting incidents of both films involving Laura's suicide and Lewis's. Not only is it pivotal to the plot kicking off, but shows us the choice to have both characters maintain their smile the entire time they mutilate themselves. And that is extremely effective and also gives a build-up for the unnatural sense of danger that is coming the character's way. Take the gore from Sky Riley's car accident when she glances over at her dead partner's head lodged into the windshield with his eyes glancing right at her. Graphic, yes. But in this case, the extent of the graphic imagery actually heightens the psychological trauma Sky goes through. Gore is best when it enhances the other horrors at play, not overshadows it. There are a few times when the gore was a little much, don't get me wrong, but otherwise it was well done. I had mentioned back that Smile is the kind of horror that jolts you out of your seat, but it's obviously much more than that and owes its scary props for the psychological aspect behind it. Smile definitely gets points for the isolation the characters feel. Jay is lucky to have a friend group that eventually believes in her, whereas in Smile, the demon lives inside your head. There's nowhere for it to manifest other than in your skin at the time of your passing and its transition to another victim. This is more apparent for Sky in Smile 2, because at least Joel and Rose had the police information to track the chain down and know how to evade it. Sky has actually no idea what's going on. The only help she gets is from a random stranger who may or may not be real. A lot of people feel that there was a moment Smile 2 jumped the shark, and this is when it's revealed at the end that the last 20 minutes leading to the finale was an illusion created by the demon.
This isn't real, Sky.
She's then transported from the face-off of her versus her evil self to the stage of her live concert. I did like this though. The film doesn't specify when the moment the scenes in the movie become hallucinations spout off from the curse, though for those who've watched it, I'm assuming it's this moment. It's actually pretty terrifying to know that the influence the demon has on one's psyche could go as far as take the victim away from their reality entirely before they eventually die. Someone had to have been walking around in Sky's body to get her rehearsed, talking to people even hours or questionably days before she went on stage, all while Sky had fake killed her mother and drove to an abandoned Pizza Hut to have her heart stopped by a random man. Since I'm left with these questions about the demon's exact hold on the victim, I personally would want more information on how this worked, and I find it interesting just to know that Sky was able to convince others or just act as per usual. We don't really get to see how Sky acted on the outside. We know through the hallucinations that we followed her through, but on the outside, obviously, she had to walk, talk, and operate. The It Follows creature also comes off as indifferent in its approach to you, keeping a blank face and constantly walking to you no matter what, recalling back to it representing inevitable death. Whereas with Smile, its sadism is what the creature leads with. In both films, the creature deceived the main character into believing they have outsmarted it in the end, only for it to all have been a joke. What an asshole. So psychologically, both Smile and It Follows are respectively different in their messages and execute their horror well. It seems pretty neck and neck with these two guys, but there's one last aspect that's essential for horror in film: sound. While the movie Smile was not filmed using Dolby Digital, it was released in a format that supports Dolby Atmos for the audio and Dolby Vision for the video, offering a high-quality viewing experience. Dolby Atmos is a newer, more advanced sound format which allows surround sound to move more freely in a three-dimensional space. This might contribute to how Smile can be such an auditory experience. Back when I mentioned the music from both films, Smile's musical score adds so much eeriness with its use of the daxophone because it can play notes that mimic human growls. The instrument produces a variety of vocal-like sounds by manipulating the length of a vibrating tongue, which can make some comedic sounds as well as imitate human ones. Rather than just enhancing the atmosphere, Smile's score is an auditory ride. Not just because of the advanced loudness Dolby Atmos provides, but because the score sounds so broken, ill, hellish. The auditory experience strengthens the fears in the film like gasoline to a fire. Even without the score, take this scene with the ashen figure of Laura just sitting there, smiling, barely looking real. The silence in this scene is deafening.
Gross.
And this is only the beginning of the first film. And don't get me wrong, the score from It Follows certainly does its job, especially with the tall man scene. But when I take a look at the other scares from that movie, they're creepy. It's the uncanny valley, don't get me wrong, but nothing is as high stress, high fight or flight as that one moment in Jay's bedroom. Does it need to be? No, I mean, the film does a pretty good job at keeping things suspenseful even if it doesn't beat that one scare. But if we're talking about effective scares from Smile, it takes a special horror movie to dedicate itself to scares time and time again. There are many that work so well. Except for this one. I will not talk about this one. It's so stupid. Okay, here's the thing. Occasionally the smiles are funny, not enough to throw me out of the film, and the smile demon can occasionally act as goofy at times, so it doesn't not work because the demon is basically trolling the main character, so even when it's goofy, it works. It's meant to look like the monster is having fun because, well, it is.
It doesn't change the fact that Smile overall produces more effective and consistent scares than It Follows. So the final round comes to a close. We've tallied up the scores, and it looks like we have a winner.
Speech! 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 Speech!
Do you guys agree with the final results? Let me know in the comments below. Despite the contest, I thought this was an interesting time to look into the universes of both films, especially given the success of Smile 2 last year and also the upcoming announcement of the It Follows sequel. I had so much fun making this video for you guys. Please be nice to me in the comments. This is my first YouTube video, so if you enjoyed, give a thumbs up and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.